The information shared on the Fulfilled Practitioner podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. While we explore topics in natural health, practitioner fulfillment and mindset, business growth, and practice strategies, nothing discussed on this podcast should be interpreted as medical advice or a substitute for a professional diagnosis, treatment of any kind, or individualized guidance. Always consult with a qualified healthcare professional before making any changes to your health, diet, or lifestyle, and consult with a qualified business professional before making any changes to your clinical practice or business. The views and opinions expressed by the host and any guests are their own and do not reflect the views of any affiliated organizations. The Fulfilled Practitioner podcast is not responsible for any actions taken based on the content presented. By listening to this podcast, you acknowledge that you are fully responsible for your own decisions, actions, and outcomes. Hello, and welcome to the Fulfilled Practitioner podcast. I'm your host, Ricky Brar. This is a place where natural health practitioners learn how to grow, simplify, and fall back in love with their practice again. Here we talk fulfillment, practice growth, leverage in technology, AI, and the mindset needed to build an impactful and meaningful practice. If you're ready to evolve as a practitioner and create a life that feels aligned and energizing, let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Fulfilled Practitioner podcast. Today we're doing our very special Meet Your Health Hero segment. This is a segment where I spotlight practitioners who are just not creating an impact, but they're doing it with fulfillment, purpose, and authenticity. I've truly had the great pleasure of meeting some of the most brilliant practitioners on the face of the planet, and they're changing the world, and we want to make sure that they don't stay a best-kept secret much longer. So today I have the wonderful Tanya. Tanya, welcome to the podcast. How's everything going?
Hi, it is going amazing. I love this time of year. We're getting some good sunlight here in Montana. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's an absolute honor and pleasure, and I can't wait to dive deeper with you because I know you're doing so many amazing things. But before we jump into it, I'd love for you to let the audience know who you are and what you do.
All right, my name is Tanya Candee. I am a RN by licensure, so I still keep my RN license. And I own and operate a small business called Awakened Wellness. It is an amazing little space. I do have a brick-and-mortar in a super small town in Sidney, Montana. So when it comes to that side of my business, I try to stay educated, have the products on hand to help whoever walks in my door. So whether it's a child with an earache or parasite cleanses or whatever it is, that is a really large scope of practice. My online presence is niched down a little bit. There I empower in helping ambitious, open-minded professionals take back control of their health in a more natural way. We address root causes, health challenges, and mostly help them regain energy, rebalance their life, including hormones, and just restore overall vitality. So that's that group of people who has started to have some fatigue, started to have some weight gain. They've been to the doctor, had some labs done. The doctor said, I don't know, you're fine. Your labs look normal. Come back when you're sicker. So I have a group program that really helps meet the needs of those people. I love the group where we can do the one to many and really help those people get back what they felt in their 20s or 30s.
Amazing. And I love the name of your practice as well. Like that's so powerful, Awaken Wellness. And it looks like somebody coming into you, they pretty much can get help from like stuff that they're going through, a period of crisis in their life, and then people looking to optimize and look for performance and longevity. So there's almost like no one you can't help. I love it.
Yeah, and that's, of course, I've worked with a business coach and they don't love that. They want you to niche down. They want you to be this special person. And, especially with I want to do nothing more than support my community. Local and the people who follow us online. But working with me one-on-one locally is pretty special. I do bioenergetic testing. I dabble in some muscle testing. I don't consider I use the bioenergetic because I don't consider myself an expert at that. I would rather teach the people who come in my door to muscle test themselves, so they don't have to rely on me, so they can figure that out. I'd rather teach the sway test and teach them how to do it. But I offer services. I have got a healing room that everything I do fits with our detox perspective, right? But I've got the Flowpresso machine. I've got a ionic foot bath that is the professional grade. And then I've got high power PEMF and red light. So it's cozy. I rent a house structure. So we've got the healing room, my office, and the store, and then downstairs it's just an unfinished basement apothecary. I've got all the dried herbs, and I always say we're just dabbling. I'm not an expert, but we do have once a month we have a community apothecary class where we just get brave together and try these things. So yeah, really, really being present here in our physical community is super important to me.
Oh, I love the clarification, because I think if anyone's listening and they're not a practitioner, they don't often realize what practitioners go through, and like what is kind of pushed on us from like a niching down standpoint, and like picking one lane and staying in it. So the fact that you are this just hub of wellness for your local community, and then people can work with you online, it's the best of both worlds. And I'm almost like, okay, I gotta find where Sidney, Montana is on the map, and I gotta take a plane ride down and visit in person. But that's absolutely amazing. And the part that makes me curious about it all is like what drew you into this world? Like, what was there a personal story or something like that got you
There's
involved?
such a story. Yeah, there's such a story. And I'll try to make it short. Of course, like most of us, it was my own health and falling apart in multiple ways. As a nurse, that was my second career. I was a hairdresser first. I went back to be a nurse. Yeah, so I never loved being a nurse, honestly. I didn't want to work in the ER. I didn't want to work in the ICU. Most of my career, I worked in corrections. I was a nurse in the jail. So that's a lot of psychosocial type things. I had felt called to be a nurse and change my career. It was a way to be stable. I was raising two kids by myself. And then I did that for a good 10 years or so. And my health was failing. Really, a lot of GI problems, a lot of chronic back pain. And I was really, sometimes I cuss, I was really in a pissed off place with that career. I just I didn't love it. And I had gotten remarried, moved to Montana, and discovered horses. So I knew that I didn't want anything more to do with the healthcare system, but I also wasn't going to give up the paycheck. It really felt stuck, right? In the way we do things, I was out of alignment with. So I just started buying horses, and I started training horses and living in Montana. And though that part of my life calmed my nervous system, it taught me so many things working with those horses, the way they communicate and all that. And then I got to this place where doing all that physical stuff, I was eating so much ibuprofen and in so much pain and really struggling physically. And that's all the noise in the background that I was pushing through. So the bigger stressors, the pain stressors, the horses keeping me calm. And then I had my first grandchild on the way. And my daughter-in-law says to me, this was about 7 years ago, says, I don't think I want to vaccinate my kids. And I was like, whoa, well, honestly, as a nurse, I had never thought twice about it. I never thought of danger. I never thought of who would not. All I knew is that working in the clinics, working in the hospitals, all I knew is they say really bad things. Even the nicest, sweetest nurses say really bad things about the anti-vaxxers in the break room. That's what I knew. So I just got on my grandma hat, my supportive hat, and was like, okay, we need to get educated. We need to, I'm going to go with you. You're going to get bullied. I never tried to tell her what to do. I just came in as a supportive role. And in the midst of getting that education, was awakened to wellness. So I've to support her. And then I found all these other natural remedies and ways to improve my pain and ways to improve my health. And then went and got myself educated, went through multiple programs. And this is where we are now.
That's such an amazing story. I didn't know. I probably knew 20% of that, if that, about you. So that's why I love doing this podcast. And I
Yeah.
talk about this concept in my book as well, where like there's a big need for us to be generalists and not necessarily specialists, like focusing on one thing. So if we reflect backwards here, like I heard hairdresser, so I'm sure there's lots of stories there, there's lots of things you've learned. And then you were somebody on the purely medical side, right? And you were somebody in jails in a high stress environment, working with a specific group of people as well. And then you also started working with horses. So there's like so many skills that in that instance don't necessarily translate, but I'm sure they translate into your work and who you are today. A great example is always like the Steve Jobs of Apple, and people don't realize that he was a big time generalist. He wasn't just like a purely computer guy. He also loved art. He loved calligraphy. He loved structures. So that's actually experiences and in his travels that now reflect in a lot of the Apple products as well. So I love when you could look backwards and you can kind of see like what events made you who you are today. That was amazing.
Oh, for sure. And like if someone could if you could travel back in time and tell the 20-year-old me that this is who I would be at 53, you would laugh them under the table. There's no way. So I really do consider myself such a bridge. I'm never going to be that practitioner that is uber natural and completely discredits the medical field. Absolutely. Can we find a more natural way? Can we try to pull weeds and do all those things? We can, but where my heart is really at is I know even in my own client retention, what we ask people to do is super hard. So when somebody comes and they sit in front of me and they're on 3, 4, 5 medications, I'm not there to be their judge and jury. I'm there to meet them where they're at and starting to make a few foundational changes and move forward at whatever pace they will allow. And you know how it is. Sometimes that's just not their time. And we don't see them back for 3 more years. And that's all right. We're always here to be that guide, to be that open door. And it's amazing in a small town. I get people that come in that I've never met before, but they know enough about me and they'll come in and they'll say, okay, I feel like I can tell you this crazy story and you're not going to judge me. They've sat in the doctor's office, whether it's women who I don't judge if they need to lose 100 pounds or 5 pounds. It's their weight, right? But so many women have sat in the doctor's office and they've tried and they just feel terrible. That conversation makes them feel terrible. Just go and eat less and exercise more and those answers. And I think the main thing is when you sit down with me, the conversation is going to be long. I block off a ton of time because people just want to be heard. They don't want to be cut off. They want to tell you your story and to know that you believe what they're saying. And sometimes just that conversation is somewhat of a cure, just because we let them know they're safe and we believe what they're saying.
That's huge. And I wish more practitioners would have a mindset like that, because I do often see it where there's like a line in the sand and they're like, no, everybody on the other side of this line is not a good person and they're not doing the right things. But I love how you blend natural medical together as well, and spiritual and emotional, and you're there for people. I just have learned so much about you, but there's so many ways that you help people. Is there someone, this is going to put you on the spot a little bit, is there someone who you love working with most? Is there like a certain transformation you like to deliver most or co-create?
I think it's probably, we all know our ideal client is really like us, resonates like us. Myself, I came from a place of, well, I'm too stubborn to have had a medical diagnosis. As a nurse, I knew if I spent all the time in the waiting rooms and did all the tests, they would have told me I had fibromyalgia. So that chronic pain, when I really started on my holistic journey, I had the really bad fibromyalgia points. And then I was going to see a back surgeon for these herniated discs. So, I guess that's my favorite experience. And that person who sticks with it. I don't do everything perfect. I don't expect anybody to be perfect. It's just over 7 years for me to still get up in the morning and try, and not just to revert back to your own way, your old ways, the easy ways, the way that the general community does things. So I gotta say that's still probably my favorite. But I've got a little guy with he's a kindergartner, and from my hometown. Mom found me through friends. This little guy was having seizures, uncontrollable seizures, and they've been everywhere, to Mayo Clinic and everywhere. And I've only seen the kid in person twice. And we just did some different things nutritionally, started pulling heavy metals, and we got him out of the seizures. So, that's definitely not my niche, but as well as I do, it's all foundational. When you remove from the body what isn't supposed to be there and support what's missing, I don't care what it is, we can fix anything.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have minor energy issues, if you have something that's a bit more serious going on symptom-wise, there's no one that can't benefit from doing those foundations. And what we learn, unfortunately, the hard way through our career is that, or at least I did, is that you greatly overestimate how much people are doing the basics. So there's so much information practitioners have that we take for granted and we don't talk about, we don't post about. A good example being circadian biology, right? Like that is so vital and foundational to the point that I would argue a lot of the supplements people are taking, a lot of the diet changes they're making probably aren't working as much because they're staying up way too late, being bombarded by blue light. They're not managing that. There's no morning light. There's no morning sunlight. Those variables that, like, I personally thought every single person who's trying to make themselves healthier was already doing that. But then as you start to pick their brain about it, they're like, what? No, I stay up till 2 a.m. for no reason. Or sometimes I start binge watching a Netflix show at midnight. And you're like, oh my goodness, okay, we uncovered a big block for people. So it looks like you love to work with people who are empowered, who want to put in the work and move toward that area, and who do want to respect that we are all the same type of human where we have these foundational needs that need to be met before moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know about you, but I've almost gotten to the place, not that I refuse to work with anybody, but, I do have a sign in my front yard and in the business that says detox and parasite cleanse. And I do offer, some of the easier routes or the smaller routes, but it's more like as a store, not under my guidance kind of thing. I still, I carry homeopathy for somebody who just walks in. It's just a store at that point. But I really, and you hate to get on your soapbox too much about just doing a 2-week parasite cleanse and kicking the hornet's nest. And then 6 months later, now you gained a mysterious 10 pounds or something else is going on weird, So I do find myself, you feel like the cop, or you feel like, I don't like to be the bad guy role. But sometimes when people walk in the door, I'm like, if you're not willing to avoid the 7 inflammatory foods, if you're not willing to spend 120 days on a foundational program, then, maybe come see me next year when you're ready, or just don't do a 2-week cleanse and kick the can and then have bigger problems to fix next year.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's not the starting point, but I think in today's world where we're bombarded with like the TikTok reels and Instagram reels and all of the short form content, somebody might be claiming that, hey, I took this for 3 days and it completely changed my gut or whatever they're looking to improve. So I think people are very misinformed, and that's where that's the one thing even in this AI era, AI can't do for you is it can't do the work for you. It can't make you a foundationally healthy person. And I love your timeline. Like I've found the same timeline in my career over and over, is where like you almost need to work with somebody for approximately 120 days to start to make that impact, right? It's not the end point. It's not the whole thing. So if they're not open to that right off the bat, there's probably some things they have to get over first. And I love, Tanya, your approach, your mindset. So this is the Fulfilled Practitioner podcast. It's a question I ask every single practitioner. What does being a fulfilled practitioner mean to you personally?
I think first trying to stay on track ourselves, practicing what we preach, walking the walk, talking the talk, all that. But really for me, the fulfillment is in stages. I am such a 7-year itch person. So I did really just one-on-one for 7 years, and I needed to. That taught me so much. It built my foundation in how to help people, and all different kind of people, women, men, children. And now going forward, the next 7 years, even working with you and your program, I really am ready for that group one-to-many. I am sick of saying the same thing over and over again. And my health, I'm such at a different point, and like everybody needs a foundational 120-day parasite cleanse, but that's so far behind me that I forget what it was really like. I've got some amazing ropeworm videos of my own ropeworm and that kind of thing, but keep staying fulfilled and being on repeat is becoming more difficult. So I really appreciate that group setting where I can have the evergreen videos and I can feel like I can move on to the next phase. But there's all these people back here that still need that foundation. I'm ready to move forward, but I have to remember all the people back here that don't have that foundation yet.
Absolutely. And sometimes we forget that distinction. And this is what we call the evolution of your practice, is you have to go through a certain period where you're becoming the expert working that one-on-one model. So it's something that everyone does. And it's something that still has to remain in place because not everyone is a good fit for a group because they have varying complexities. But people like to improve their health and heal in groups. So it's such a powerful delivery system. And at the very least, my message to practitioners, which I know I've been like a soapbox and beating it into all of the practitioners in our group, is that we need to be able to leverage ourselves. So if you find yourself constantly repeating yourself, that doesn't necessarily mean you need a group tomorrow. You do need to take steps to use technology, leverage the information you have, turn it into something that can be consumed when you're not in the office, make people accountable for that. Like, simple example, record your video on why you should remove gluten from your diet, right? Like, how many practitioners don't do that? And then we have to kind of strip that back a little bit. Many practitioners, you have to ask them, why haven't you done that already? They'll be like, oh, we don't know how to record. We don't know how to edit. We don't know the tech. We don't know which camera to use. We don't know what microphone to use. So there's like a set of steps that takes you there, but you have to evolve your practice like that. So I know that's such a powerful one. And I love your 7-year timeline there. And it's kind of a pivotal one. Like I've reflected back, and that number 7 seems to be very consistent. We kind of go through this like shedding of old skin and turning into a new person approximately every 7 years. So that's a powerful timeline for you to take the next step. So I could see this being so powerful, and you guys listening can already tell, working with Tanya and her energy, like there's an amazing environment and ecosystem there for you to improve your health. So I love that you're creating that. So I know you mentioned going from like one-on-one for a period of time to groups. Is there any other ways your practice has evolved over the years or in recent years?
Yes, I would say there's been some really big jumps. When I first started and was awakened to wellness, the program that I went through was a certificate. It was root cause, and it taught me so much. I really enjoyed it, and it's I could have franchised with them, but there was some things with that I was just not quite in alignment with. I had made huge leaps and bounds. That was really lab heavy, functional lab heavy, really food allergy heavy. All of it was really great. And as a patient, as a practitioner, I probably did really a couple years, and I was so much better. My health was so much better. And then when I found Cellcore Biosciences, I love all of our I love how most of us practitioners consider ourselves coworkers, not competition, right? We all know that there's plenty of sick people to go around, where there's no need to feel that that competition, right? So it was through groups on Facebook that I heard people talking about Cellcore, and that was early. Cellcore was probably a couple years old at that point, so pretty early. And so I'm like, well, I'm just gonna try these. I'm just gonna try this person. Like, there's not much that I'm afraid of. So I pray my way through it. I'm like, I'm just gonna try it. So with Cellcore, I got an account with them. I started doing the education, started using the products, and that was the first time I was ever like, boom, I can feel this thing working. And then at that point, I had been studying some like natural cancer stuff because of a neighbor who would come home on hospice wanting my help, and I had heard about the fenbendazole. So that was first. For about 7 months, I had been taking fenbendazole every full moon for 3 days for like 7 months, and still having crazy IBS, and I always had wild bowels, just weird. And then when I got Cellcore, it was fast because of that fenbendazole. That ropeworm launched out of me fast, and it was the one that was ginormous, So then pairing those things, like, I feel like every practice is unique, and my practice is unique because of the steps that I was guided through. And two, I always feel like nothing happens by accident. Those are things that I needed as my complicated, full of autoimmune. And I had the major spiritual experience when those parasites, when that ropeworm left me. I did not know that my spiritual eyes and my spiritual ears were closed off like they were.
Wow.
So I had a second awakening when you get that major parasite out of you. Now, don't get me wrong, I can still see parasites in the toilet on a full moon. I'm still a work in progress trying to change my terrain. I definitely will never not be doing some kind of protocol at least that week of the full moon. The dog gets it, the husband gets it, I get it, but that was a huge transition in my practice. So bringing that in and combining it, with what I already knew. But now I talk to real people about a garden. Your body's nothing but a garden spot. So I know that what I was doing the first part of my journey, spending a ton of money on really good liquid organic herbs, avoiding 30 things on my food allergy list, doing all the things pretty well perfectly for 2 years. That was great, but it was like planting beautiful organic seeds in a garden full of bad soil and weeds and next to a fuel tank, right? So I always say, if you were going to buy organic seeds and plant a garden, you'd be super picky about your soil. You would prepare, you would compost, and then you would plant these beautiful organic seeds and get a harvest. The way I was doing it I planted beautiful organic seeds. That is those lifestyle modifications. That is those expensive herbs. I planted those and I still was getting a harvest. They still were growing in my terrible soil, in my terrible terrain. But now I just know impact wise, save your money, save your testing, pull the weeds out of your garden. And that's what we do with that 120-day foundation. And still, I do have clients that come in that we do functional, we do ill for a pill because they're not ready to commit to taking supplements 4 times a day for 90 days. And if you can't commit to that, I can still help them. I can still work with them, but we just can't fully pull those weeds.
Absolutely. And like that practice shift in itself is like one of the most powerful. And I hear it all the time, as you know, from practitioners is we have to take a look at the macro. So I love the planting organic seeds analogy that you had for the lifestyle change. And then you go to the micro right after that. So that opens the doors to helping even more people. And like it used to surprise me, but it doesn't surprise me as of today. But when I reflect back on working with people, like a lot of times people don't realize how deep rooted their issues are, but you still need to find a way in. And that's where I think their aim is to like do that quick cleanse and try to get rid of 20 years of issues, but that's not how it works, right? There's usually deep rooted stuff going on. So I know from our conversation today and getting to know you more, you are doing so many amazing things. The question that I always like to ask practitioners who are on the cutting edge like this is, do you see any trends right now kind of shaping the future of natural healthcare and just healthcare in general? And how do you anticipate evolving with them as well?
Yeah, I would definitely say like that's the elephant in the room is the peptides for sure. Everybody is coming in with the peptides. I had clients asking for peptides. I live in a really cool area where we have a super active oil filled community. So it's called the Bakken. It's wild, the growth and whatnot in our community. So I have a lot of men who listen to Joe Rogan, who, want the neurogum. And so when it comes to stuff like that, a lot of the things I end up researching or end up on the shelves at the store, or because somebody came in and said, well, so-and-so is talking about this. Do you have it? Right? So there's always that. And I like new shiny objects. I get bored. I want to learn more. So I know like I'm going to be bringing in those super patches. That's new and trending. I don't really know anything about it, but people are asking. Some of my mentors are using it, so I'm up for it. It's not going to cost me anything to learn. And then the peptides. I do support use of GLP-1 peptides when we help people and do it on healthy terms. So again, my clients were saying, do you have this? And so I found it. I found a place that I could have an affiliate relationship with, doctor prescription. I feel safe. I feel good about it. And it really has brought me new clients. It's brought me people who aren't ready for what I do, who aren't anywhere near committing to a 120-day foundation. So it is a bridge to a new crowd of people that really they're not looking to do what we do as a big picture, but it does establish a relationship. And even if they just are ready for a GLP-1, they're desperate, they want to change something, they still walked in my door. Now they're on my email list. And maybe down the road, I can help them do more.
That's huge. And I think it's the trend that everyone's noticing. So I know the peptide thing is a big one. And it's something that I've just learned the bare basics of. And I think more and more people are asking. I know when I go to my son's hockey games, as an example, some of the dads there are dabbling with peptides. And they'll ask me, hey, have you heard of this one? And I'll be like, I've heard of it, but I don't know what it does. And I don't know the specifics. But it is something that people are becoming more open to. And it seems to be a new trend. It's kind of like like with AI in the tech world, we got peptides in the health world, and right now they look like they're doing a lot of good things for people. So it's so cool that you're staying on top of that. And I love that you mentioned even with the super patch that you said something very powerful there, where you're like, it doesn't cost me anything to learn, right? So you're not just shunning something at the surface level. You're actually willing with an open mind to explore it and see how much it impacts people. But what I am very, I definitely want to pick your brain about this. I'm very curious about this. Is like, you're doing my program, you're learning about peptides, you're learning about all these other things. Like, how are you learning all of this and still keeping your energy and not feeling overwhelmed and burnt out? What is there anything special you do there?
Well, you're assuming that I'm not overwhelmed and burnt out.
This is true. This is true. So I hope you're not overwhelmed. Your energy does not give up overwhelmed, but I
Oh,
know you have
no,
such a powerful energy, so it could be
it,
matched.
it's good. It is good. And time blocks, I'm trying to be better about time blocks. Um And even like in the evening, my husband watches Netflix or whatever's on TV. I do my social media posting. So, I am one of those ultimately driven people. I really am. Who would have guessed it? I was a lazy, terrible teenager, but somewhere I flipped the switch, and learning is my entertainment. Learning is fun to me. I'm one of those people that is super hard to entertain. I would rather learn something than party, or whatever. So that really is. And people will say, well, work-life balance. I don't know. That, to me, my work is fun. I love it. I absolutely love it. So I don't know. I guess maybe that's what keeps me in check. A good walk with a podcast in my ear. And I am working on silence, just finding the silence. That is not in my nature. That is something that I have, that part is work to me. That's the work, finding
Which is
that
crazy to
silence.
say out loud, right? It's a hard thing to even admit to. I'm in the same boat, and it's kind of like, quote unquote, what the doctor ordered for us the most. Like, that's the most impactful thing to
Yep.
happen. But like, I love that you're so intrinsically motivated. And I think one of the things there is like, you found your calling, and you found alignment. And I have to give you a giant high five, because I know I've seen you in our group Q&A, and you're always willing to teach other members what you're learning, if there's a shortcut you've learned, what you picked up. And every single time, I think that there's been something there that you learn new, like you share it immediately. So you're a natural born teacher. I see those gifts in you. So I love that you're cultivating these skills, and it doesn't necessarily stress you out or overwhelm you to continue to do that.
Yeah, and I've often, most of us have heard the seven love language or the love languages. What's your love language? I'm often like, I don't know. But I think what you kind of just said, I think that's my love language, is when people listen, is that mentorship, whether it's the mom and now in this grandma role, and I try not to be pushy or whatever. I just talk. If you want to listen, that's awesome. Listen. If not, flip the channel. That's no biggie.
Yeah, that's the mindset we need to have, right? Or else people get bogged down by people that don't want to listen, or trolls, or negative comments or negative feedback. But there's so many people that want to listen to your message. So I love that you're openly preaching it. And I know you've done some amazing things like local summits and online summits, and just creating events for your community. So I definitely want you to continue doing that. Is there anything you do in your day-to-day flow to kind of create boundaries and manage your energy, going from like consult to consult and different case to different case?
I can't say that there really is. I do have at the store, I've got two really amazing assistants. So then that gives me the freedom with them there keeping the doors open. If there's nobody on my schedule, hey, me and the dog get to go for an extra long walk that day. I am enjoying this phase of life so much. I just really am. I was thinking about that this morning when I had this to prepare for, And, every morning is a little bit different. So finding that flow, finding that schedule. But I am so grateful every day that I am not punching the clock at a hospital 12-hour shift, no matter what. And working with people that are busy, who have normal 8 to 5s, like, trying not to overstress them, because I get that. Like, I am living a blessed life of luxury. It sounds like I'm super busy, and I am super busy, but everything is at my control. So if I'm super busy, but my grandkids want to come over, hey, I just push what's on the calendar aside, so keeping those daytime hours, business hours, that's one thing. We all do that. But I can be gone for 2 weeks, and setting this so it still works behind the scenes when you're not there. Like, it's just amazing. And I've always had the heart of a self-employed person. So I like to make my own mistakes. I'll try whatever, learn from my mistakes. At the age of 20, I was self-employed with my beauty salon, one chair, just me, figure out the colors, figure out the perms. You don't have nobody to ask for advice. So always I made the mess, I'll clean it up, like just uber independent, right? So working then as a nurse for somebody else, I even had a side gig as a private duty nurse. So I just like to be self-employed. I'm probably not the best boss, but I can do me. I can do me. And yeah, I love this stage of life. It's amazing.
Well, you just defined the podcast. That was like the perfect clip. I wish that came out of my mouth because it was so perfectly said. That makes me even more glad that I interviewed you today for the Fulfilled Practitioner, because in many ways you just defined what practice fulfillment looks like. And that's where we're able to control our own schedule, work with the people we love working with, get that amazing feedback, make time for our family, take these breaks during the day to go and walk the dog, and ultimately enjoy every moment of life, right? And what I really want the listeners to take in here is that this is possible for any of us. This isn't something that is foreign or like it's 1%er knowledge, but Tanya has intentionally created this. It's something that she created over time. And like you said, you made your own mistakes. You realize what you don't want to do, right? And those are vitally as important as knowing what you want to do and who you want to help. So that's so powerful, Tanya. I'd love to ask you, what's next for you? What's kind of lighting you up right now?
I think it is honing in on what I'm doing and really oiling the machine. Just making it better, making it more proficient, and keeping it going. I really like where we're at right now. And like I said, I've got a couple of new products that I'm looking into because I get bored easy. I always say I'm good out of the gate, but not much for stamina. So it's keeping with my group program, keeping that in check. And then at least there's always new people so you don't get bored, right? That's what I love. Everybody that comes into the door, I love to hear their story. Just like you, or you wouldn't be doing this. I'm motivated by other people's. It's their energy. Like, I guess maybe we're the energy robbers. We need these people to come into our lives so we can glean off of their energy. It charges my batteries.
Amazing. Yeah. And energy is one of those things that I know they say it can't be created or destroyed, but it's something that when you're in the presence of someone, you can expand it and there's a big mutual benefit. So I love that. You're literally lighting yourself up and charging yourself in that moment. I'd love for you to let us know, where can listeners go to learn more about you and check out the amazing work you're doing?
So I do have a website, that is another plug. The people who host my website, if you get on my website and you like it, if you're a practitioner, reach out to me. I gladly give you their name. It's awakenedwellnessllc.com is my website. My favorite social media platform is totally Facebook. You can find me on TikTok, you can find me on Instagram, but you really find me on Facebook. I've got a personal page and a business page that I run a little bit differently, but Facebook's still my favorite. YouTube, I guess, yeah, I'm there too. Until they kick me off again.
Yeah, that's a whole other story, right?
Right.
But no, that's amazing. So I know people are going to find this so valuable. Thank you so much for today. Your energy is just so contagious. And I know people can either through their ear devices listen to it or see it on video. And I'm so grateful for this conversation today.
Yeah, thank you. Have a great day.
You as well. Take care, Tanya.